The original Nintendo 3DS has been released over a year ago, with its original price of $250 being dropped since then to increase console sales. After a limited launch with a lack of top-tier titles for the system, Nintendo came out with the XL, a superbly large-screened evolution of the original. Is it worth buying or even trading in your current 3DS model? If you don't even have a 3DS at all, is it worth looking into? I'll answer all these questions and more in my review of the 3DS XL console. This being a console review, it's harder for me to give an actual number score, so I'm really just going to give you my impressions and comparisons to the 3DS original, which I owned. Being a part of the Ambassador program, I can tell you I've had plenty of time with both systems, and I'm going to start off with the screens. That's the most noticeable thing you can see about the 3DS XL is the 90% larger screens. In comparison with my DSi, because I no longer have a 3DS original to compare to, it is massive. And when I accidentally got the wrong screen protectors for the DSi XL, I saw that they were even more massive than that. This is one of the sweet selling points of the system, is that its huge screens allow you to see 3D a lot easier than you could on the original. And I would agree with this statement. The original 3DS gave me headaches very often. When I closed the clamshell design, for some reason, it would make impressions on the screen and on the top half with the circle pad. For some reason, it wasn't very well put together. The D-pad on the original was sharp. It was not conducive to any sort of platforming or using it manageably, and it was uncomfortable holding your hands this close together and trying to remain absolutely still while viewing the 3D and trying to game at the same time, no matter what kind of high-octane experience you were having, whether it was fighting, racing, platforming, doesn't matter. You had to be absolutely still, and this posed the biggest problem for the original system. I say this is patched up marvelously well with the XL, because you have a larger room for a sweet spot to view this from. I was able to play this on the bus going to work, and I mean, the bus does not go gentle down the highway. It rushes to get to its destination and rams over bumps. It was no problem. I left the bus with no headache, and I played a heck of a lot of Super Mario 3D Land. And that's a sweet thing about picking up a system at this point, is you have so many more games to choose from. Just in my current collection, I'm looking at Bit Trip Saga, Shinobi, Mario Kart 7, Super Mario 3D Land, Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D Remake, Super Paper Mario 3D, Kid Icarus, Dead or Alive, Resident Evil. The collection, I mean, the collection goes on. It can even go on onto the digital goods system, of which Nintendo has improved. There's demos available, there's 3D movies and videos, free things for you to download to wet your whistle with 3D if you're not certain you want to purchase a game. So it's a perfect way to get into the system, and its online connectivity is great. You can have online as far as versing goes with Mario Kart 7, multiple people, multiple matches, it keeps records. Fire Emblem, the new Fire Emblem game that came out, is an excellent game to have Street Pass on, where you trade data and parties and you get to battle them in your own game. It's a super fun part of 3DS, and the 3DS XL only makes it more excellent because of its extended battery life. This was a big factor in the original 3DS, and you know, I was an early adopter with the thought of how fast the Wii went. I was not able to get that, and I overpaid for it when I did. So I said, alright, I'm just going to pay the regular price, get it early. I bought it at $250, then it was dropped down a bit, and I got the Ambassador program. So I can't complain because I can make these comparisons, but the battery life on that was atrocious. Either you kept the system in sleep mode and walked around with it all day so you could hopefully get some Street Pass people, and the problem with that was in the early days of the system, it was harder to run into people. Now it's a lot easier, especially if you live in a city. If you're out in a rural area, well, go to a convention and you'll see it blow up. But now that the battery life has been extended, you can put it in sleep mode, play with it on the bus, play with it back home, and it will run all day. I mean, if you have the brightness up at full and the 3D at max, then you'll definitely whittle down the battery life considerably faster. But taking that into account, the 3D slider is an interesting effect on the XL. For some reason, it seems to me that with this larger screen, which is interlaced, sort of like a lenticular. And if you don't know what a lenticular is, it's kind of like those things you find in the Cracker Jack packs with the moving picture if you just move the card itself, and it's an animation on one slide. And that's interlaced lenticular, kind of the design that the 3DS takes after. And on this larger screen, it seems that you can turn the 3D down, but you can never turn it off. Never turn it off completely, at least that's how it appears to me. I noticed no blights when playing with glasses. Contacts work fine with it. If you have troubles with the 3D original, you might want to look at it in a store first, make sure that it's not going to give you a seizure, it's not going to give you a headache, and that it's tolerable for your kind of gameplay. I will say this, at the kiosks, it's sometimes hard to get a good feel for the sweet spot because maybe it's too low of a display for younger children so they can ask their parents to buy them something. That's a cheap trick, but it's done, and if that's the case, then try and work the sweet spot and see if you can get into it, because I will recommend the 3DS XL over the original any day. It also did a redesign with the faceplate as far as where the circle pad is. It's right above the D-pad as usual. The D-pad is much nicer to click. It's similar, reminiscent to the Nintendo DSi clicky buttons, so if you like the design of that, you're going to love this. The circle pad is smooth, works really well, and holding it on a larger plane farther away from each other makes it easier to hold the system in general, so you don't get hand cramps as often. The home, row, select, start buttons have been modified to be actually a lot more flush with the system. You can click them easier, and it doesn't have to be whomped into the system like the original, where you got to really smash it to get it to react to home, and that's what I found with my system, and it was unfortunate. And on the top screen, it always left an imprint, so I thought, what a weird design. The thing I like the most about the redesign on the holding of the bottom half of the screen there is you no longer have your stylus at the top of the system, which was always hasslesome if you are playing in intense gameplay, if you need the stylus at the drop of a hat and you can't spend time looking for it at the top of the system. It's right exactly where the A, B, Y, X buttons are, right where the wireless push is if you want to turn on wireless or off wireless. I recommend you turn off wireless if you are playing a game and you don't want to do Street Pass at the moment to save batteries. And if you're in Street Pass mode, you need wireless on. This way you can interact with passing systems. But the stylus right there, it's right by the index finger. Easy to pull out, easy to use, and the touchscreen feels great. Another awesome feature about this system in keeping the 3D consistent and getting that sweet spot perfect is the clamshell design. Now this is also, it's a good thing, it's a pro and it's a con of the system, and it's the snapping into place positions. It's got two main positions, the laptop mode to where you can put it on a table, and it's a large system, so if you have small hands or you don't want to play for an extended period of time holding this large behemoth, although I must say it feels actually lighter than the original 3DS, which is odd but true. It's a far upgraded model in my opinion. You can also have it in the traditional holding it as you would play a portable Game Boy Advance system. You know, you're holding it away from yourself, but you're not holding it on the table. It has a snapback 2 modes into that. So with those two options, you can find your sweet spot, whether you want to hold the system or put the system down and play. And the reason this becomes a problem is due to what I experienced with my Nintendo DS Lite. The system I played a shit ton of. What ended up happening after the L and R buttons, which, by the way, very comfortable and squishy on the 3DS XL, once those wore away, eventually the hinge got to a point where I opened it and it just snapped and cracked, and was never able to use that system again. So while I like that it snaps into place, I worry that it is a point of planned obsolescence for the console to fail at some point. But it feels fairly sturdy to me, really feels a lot better than the 3DS original, and what you get with the system is a 4 gig SD card, so you can go right onto the eShop. And if you're picking up the system today and you're like, what do I get, DeoGenZ? Got 20 bucks in my pocket, I'm just going to get a gift card for the eShop. I recommend Push Blocks, Pushmo, and, well, Pushmo and Push Blocks is the same thing, and they came in waves. The Denpa Men, a fun RPG that combines the Space Raiders motion sensing camera type gameplay of looking around, hunting for these little Denpa men. It's kind of like the Dream Radar eShop title as well. It's a good companion there if you want to get the Dream Radar Pokemon fan for Black 2 and White 2 as a companion to get Dream World abilities without having to use the actually online website, which I think is quite nice. It's a good deal. But the Denpa Men, it's an RPG, beautifully rendered out, very funny. It's like humorous Miis. They have antennas. They look kind of like Pikmin men. And Pull Blocks Pushmo is a puzzle game that is very awesome and has sort of infinite gameplay in that users create their own levels, post them up as AR cards, and when you see it's moving blocks to platform upon them, and you can't stand them on them to move them. It reminds me sort of Catherine on the 360, except not so seductive like that, a lot more cute and cuddly for the Nintendo younger generation audience. But both great games, excellent titles on the system. It is now the time to get a 3DS XL, and here's the benefit of having the original if you have one and you felt like you got cheated on the price or whatnot. Currently it is June. I went to GameStop a couple of weeks ago, and this is of 2013, so when you're watching this, I don't know what the prices will be at this point. The trade-in value I got for my 3DS was $75 off the price of the 3DS XL, which was $200. So that's really not a bad deal. And you know, $200 for the XL, I paid $250 for the original. So I really am impressed with the system, loving what games are coming out onto it. Luigi's Mansion, the new Animal Crossing, X and Y of Pokemon in October, worldwide everybody. There is some massive titles coming to the 3DS, so why not play it on a massive system like the XL? I'm DeoGenZ. Leave your comments below letting me know what you think of the 3D. Does it affect you in a negative way? Does it give you a headache or a seizure? I hope no seizures. Please don't play it then. And would you consider getting an XL given what I've said to you here today? All right, I am going to see you in the future.